Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of Randall's Comics and Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend and your week is going good. And thank you for joining me on this Wednesday special Showdown edition Wednesday evening. I'm going to bring you tonight a comic book series that came out in the 90s, pitting two of the 90s, 80s, well, 90s when Spawn came out. But anyway, two of the pretty hot characters in the 90s, even now, working together, working against each other. And of course, I'm talking about Spawn from Image Comics, and the other is Batman from DC Comics. Now, Spawn and Batman is a one shot comic book published in 1994, written by Frank Miller and illustrated by Todd McFarlane. It's a crossover between the Batman and Spawn universes published by Image Comics. The story involves Batman and Spawn encountering each other in Gotham City, with Spawn investigating a series of murders linked to a mysterious figure known as the Clown. I'll let y'all figure out who that was. And this was the first in, I think, a series of three comic books that pretty much spelled out that Spawn and Batman have crossed over in comic book form three times, resulting in a trilogy: Batman Spawn, War Devil, and Spawn Batman. These crossovers involve the two characters meeting and interacting, often with conflict, before finding common ground. Go figure. Seems to be a common, add two characters, similar plot, stir, and there's your story. But anyway, tonight I'm going to present you with Batman Spawn. This was the first crossover where Batman encounters Spawn in Gotham, and also we're going to War Devil. This is the second story where it sees Batman and Spawn facing off against a demonic threat. And the third in the trilogy was Spawn Batman, the final installment in the trilogy where the two heroes team up again. Like I said, this continued a trend of not Marvel and DC Image, having the characters cross over. You saw I brought some Spawn and some other characters, and there was some Spider-Man and Aliens. That's a pretty good crossover series. But tonight I'm going to bring you the two books that I do have, and let's take a look at this showdown and see how it goes. All right, stick around. All right, and the first book I'm bringing out is Spawn Batman. This, of course, was written by Frank Miller, and of course, drawn by Todd McFarlane from Image Comics. Crack this bad boy open and see what we have, shall we? Uh, Going through the old, it's got a little bit about Todd McFarlane. Of course, he continues to be a hot artist, illustrator, and of course, Frank Miller, who of course continues to be one of the best comic writers. I don't know about his artwork, but right now, so let's crack this bad boy open and see what we have. What we have, shall we? Ooh, boy, this book still looks good for being 30 years old. Look at Spawn. Yeah, it was really good. As you can see, the guns in the 90s were the size of Volkswagens. Thank you, Mr. Leafield. There's Batman jumping in action. Alrighty. And let's just skip on ahead to that famous scene here at the end when here we go. Look at that. In memory of Jack Kirby. Oh, passed away in 1994. Oh, that's the scene I'm talking about. I almost skipped over it. When Batman tosses that batarang and catches Spawn in the face with it. Yowza. Alrighty. That wraps up Batman Spawn. Let's take a look at Spawn, Batman Spawn, War Devil, shall we? Alrighty, here we go with Batman Spawn, War Devil. Doug Minch, Chuck Dixon, Alan Grant, Klaus Janson. I don't think. Who is Croatan? He's a crouton served at Olive Garden. Just joking. Yeah, and as you can see here, this is, like Bob, it just says the character just giving knowledge that, the characters created by Spawn and Bob Kane, but like I said, the storyline is writers. You see the writers and the artists there. Spawn and Batman getting down. And ooh, what the heck? Find him some clothes. Let's get to Target, shall we? Alrighty. There they are working it out there as best they can here at the end. At least you can get a batarang in the face. Anyway, that's Spawn. Batman Spawn. War Devil. Alrighty. And as for what do you guys think about crossovers? Love them? Hate them? Let's talk about it next on this episode of Randall's Comics and All right, in this corner of what do you think about crossovers? They're fine. Like I said, it just brings more eyes to the characters, to the comic books, to the feel. Like I said, we can just keep going through, Deadpool, Wolverine. That's one of the biggest ones. And of course, the 90s iteration of that. These two right here. But yeah, like I said, crossovers have their purpose, as far as, you see Secret Wars, DC does their crossovers. Like I say, it helps to bring probably a less known character or storyline or comic book, crossing over to a more popular series until it can get its footing. But like I said, crossovers are fine. Crossovers are great. Like I said, I guess it all depends on who's doing the writing and most part, who's doing the art. I think this was the best selling one out of the three because Todd McFarlane had something to do with the artwork. But anyway, thank you for joining me for tonight's episode of Randall's Comics. And please help my channel out by smashing the like, subscribe button down below. Also, a friend of mine, Comic Mike, he has a really good channel. Go check him out. He has a very interesting topics that he likes to talk about as far as showing his comic book collection. So anyway, thanks for joining me for tonight's episode of Randall's Comics. And like we always say on this channel, increase the peace and decrease the fish grease. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time.